Well, let's talk about this with Lord McKinley. Craig McKinley, of course, was an MP of the Conservatives, now a Conservative peer, and I'm delighted to say joins us right now. Good morning to you. Can you hear us? Craig McKinley, hello. Craig.
Hello, can you hear me? I've got a bit of reception problems at this end. Oh,
right. Okay. I don't know if we can see... Oh, we can see you now. We can hear you. Hopefully this will continue. Now, Craig, you, of course, were part of the net zero scrutiny group of MPs in the House of Commons, and there was very little scrutiny, as you and I have discussed many, many times over the years, of the net zero policies when they were put into place, signed in, and, I think a Conservative government may have been involved in a lot of that. Certainly the chosen 2050 target, and then the 2035, then the 2030 targets, various different parties. None of this has actually had any proper scrutiny about whether it was achievable, whether it was affordable, whether or not it was desirable. I would say none of those three things. But what do you make of the Prime Minister jetting off as pretty much the only major world leader? China, India, France, Germany, the EU, America, none of them are there. Jetting off to an oil-producing country in Azerbaijan to attend an eco-summit to spend more of your and my taxpayers' money.
Yes, Cop29 in an oil-producing state, Cop28 in the UAE. It's quite comical, really. The big three CO2 outputters, India, China and the US, none of their heads of state are going. And I can be pretty sure that the new head of state in the US won't be going to COP30. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. Do you know...
They should hold it in Texas. It would be really good fun.
Well, you know, the fact that it goes to oil-producing areas, yes, perhaps it would be in Texas next year. But can you believe, Julia, 80,000 people turn up to these annual jamborees? 80,000 people. I mean, that's the size of a pretty good-sized town. Yeah. I don't know what the hell they do. They obviously must consume a vast amount of energy doing whatever they're talking.
Absolutely. You cut out for a second there.
A lot of them turn up by private jet.
Oh, we know. We know they do that because at Glasgow, on COP26, they all did that as well. But by the way, apparently 80,000 last year in Dubai, only about 40,000 this year. It's interesting. Already people have gone, yeah, I'm not sure this is the show to be on anymore. And this is the thing. Sorry, we've got a bit of a delay there, Craig. Sorry.
I was just thinking about what Keir Starmer's just announced. 200 million for some God knows what new factories on oil platforms. I don't really know what that means, frankly. But then on the other hand, for the sake of, dare I say, a mere 500 million, he's going to destroy the fabric of this nation by taxing farmers. I mean, these two things just don't hang well together. You'll have the rest of the world, the developing nations, I expect they're there in good numbers, will be demanding $1 trillion, apparently. Yeah.
A year
in some sort of reparations for what I'm really not sure. I would say a very good advice to a Prime Minister: don't go to COPs and don't go to heads of government for the Commonwealth nations, because it just seems you're being asked to be tucked up with taxpayers' money.
Well, absolutely.
No, the whole thing is a fiasco. I think it's time that we turned a page on all of this nonsense. And the very fact that Ed Miliband in there should just make us rather fearful, I would have thought, because we are going to win the net zero race, because there'll be nobody else in it. Everybody else will have given up rather sensibly. This
is a very, very fair point. I mean, Ed Miliband is still, it's like a sort of a 6-year-old kid getting so excited about this. I saw an interview with him this morning where Ed Miliband said that, they had an independent report from NESE, the sort of National Energy Security Body or something, and he's saying it's an independent report and they're saying that they can push on with it. Actually, read the report, it doesn't actually give a full thumbs up to it, because it's talking about sort of 90% achievable, some of his aims, and that last 10% is the difficult bit. But crucially, it's not an independent report because this body has only one shareholder. Who is that shareholder? Oh, Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, himself personally.
Can I tell you what happened last week, Julia? We had that wonderful German word, Dunkelflaute, was across the whole of Northern Europe and the UK. We lived through it. I lived through it last week. It was no wind, and it was this murky grey. So we had virtually zero output from wind farms, and we had virtually zero output from solar panels. So that in itself should have shown you something, that this really doesn't work, does it? Because if you're going to rely on renewables, and so Ed Miliband says we're going to do that ever more quickly at ever more cost to the taxpayer, how are you actually going to keep the lights on?
Yeah.
And do you know why? Because we'll all be forced to have smart meters, and will be charged colossal amounts of money. Dare we put on the kettle between 5 and 7 in the evening? There will be dynamic pricing. And that's one of the reasons when my supplier, very happy with them actually, Octopus, I think they're a good company. But I keep getting these emails saying, you need to have a smart energy meter. And I keep saying, no, I don't, and I won't. Thank you very much.
I'm with you all the way, and I've warned everyone I know, and I warn everyone on the show regularly about this. I might get an email virtually every week saying, we have to come and fit a smart meter. No, you don't. You're not doing one over my dead body. I do explain to people. Ed Miliband, again, he talks about this all the time, how it's going to be absolutely brilliant because we can have, different kind of surge pricing, and so we can have it cheaper at different times, and people can then know they can put the dishwasher or the washing machine on, and it will cost them less. You go, hold on a minute. If it costs people less at certain times, that by definition means it costs people more at certain times. And people like him, who, by the way, has 2 kitchens with 2 dishwashers in his house in North London, don't have to worry about when they put the kettle on or do the laundry because they can afford it either way. What they're saying is basically, if you're on low income, we're going to ration your energy. Now, if we really want to worry about poorer people on lower incomes who are struggling with their finances, energy, wouldn't it make more sense to have really, really cheap, reliable, secure energy that people didn't have to worry about their bills at all?
Well, it's funny, we're completely breaking capitalism. I've lost faith that we are still a capitalist country. We're actually not anymore. Because capitalist countries, if somebody wants to buy it, you will usually find that it's produced at the lowest cost and there's plenty of it. That's what capitalism does. It's a beautiful system, as Trump might say. But we've gone way past that now. It no longer works. And we're in this bizarre situation where the price is controlled. And, don't trust me on these things, Julia. Let's just trust some facts. There are 2 countries in the world that have got the most renewables. That's us and Denmark. Denmark are actually a little bit ahead of us. And guess what? Danish electricity prices are a bit more expensive than the UK. So don't trust me. Trust your bill when you open it.
And indeed, our energy bills,
highest price in the world.
Our energy bills are among the very, very highest in the world. And again, in lots of countries, that even under Joe Biden, under the Democrats, the last 4 years, America's talked a good game on climate, but actually they've become the biggest oil and gas producer in the world. And thank God they have, because when we saw the Putin invasion of Ukraine, we had the sanctions on Russian oil and gas. Thank God we were able to get our liquefied natural gas from America, which is we don't get our gas from tyrants anymore, as Ed Miliband claims. We get it from our Western allies who've got the sense to do the fracking and do the drilling.
He'll probably claim. Trouble is, Julia, with Donald Trump on the throne in the US, I expect Ed Miliband will claim that we're getting our gas from tyrants.
Well, I wanted to ask you what you made of Donald Trump taking over in the States. He'll be in power on January the 20th. We know that he says that climate change is a hoax. He's very, very, very keen on dropping all the net zero stuff. He's going to withdraw, as he did last time around, from the Paris Agreement on climate change. It seems to me that pretty much every country is not saying it but quietly withdrawing from it, because they are realising, even in Germany and France, they are facing up to the reality that their publics will not put up with the abject nonsense of higher taxes and higher prices while they get poorer. It's just not going to, and industry collapses and jobs collapse. It's just not going to fly anymore. You and I have been saying for years, this stuff doesn't survive a by-election, for God's sake. And when people actually get a choice on it, they vote against it. But this is a concern of the, of the sort of the metropolitan elite with their second car as an eco car because they can afford 2 cars. You know who those people are. I know what those people are. And frankly, I despise is a strong word, but yes, I do despise a lot of those people on this front. But what do you think is going to change for us in Britain, and indeed much of the Western world, that pays lip service to a lot of this net zero stuff, and countries like ours which are fully imbued in it, from Donald Trump taking over in America?
Well, Trump has come to that very easy and inescapable conclusion that cheap energy means that your industry has a chance to actually compete.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't compete with Chinese energy prices, for instance, because it has its output backed on coal. China has a lot of coal, it can import a lot of coal, and guess what? It burns a lot of coal and builds a new power station every week or two. And let me give you this as the biggest madness that I've heard so far. A few weeks ago, Ed Miliband said he wants to spend 22 billion of our money and hoping for another 8 billion of private money. So that's 30 billion pounds, money that could do something pretty useful, like rebuild industry, infrastructure, or something else that you might think is useful. But no, 30 billion of money to sequestrate 8 million tons of CO2 a year, a technology that doesn't actually exist quite yet. But say we did hit that holy grail of being able to put 8 million tons of CO2 down a year. That's 8 million out of Britain's 400 million tons, so a pretty small proportion.
It's laughable.
And a very small proportion of the global 40 billion tons. But say it's all possible. That 8 million tons at 30 billion pounds represents one coal-powered power station that China is building every week. Now, that should put into some context the madness of all this. Donald Trump, not surprisingly, has said, yahoo to that. It is a nonsense. It doesn't stack up. And I'm sure the US will be going up the route that we should be going down, a route that I've recommended for years. We go for domestic gas and oil as the interim fuel as we roll out nuclear reactors, and especially small modular reactors. And we don't need one-off built Bentley reactors like we're building. We want lots of Model T Ford small modular reactors. If you want to get to net zero, that is the way to do it. But I think on the way, we've got to have a bit of a reality check now and say Britain's 1% out of global CO2. The rest of them aren't bothering. Why are we completely destroying British industry, making our bills some of the highest in the world, and making the poorest suffer the very most? It's certainly not conservative. I would actually guess it's not very socialist either. Perhaps we will wake up to this madness. And do you know what? Ed Miliband's really rapid route to this type of lunacy might actually be the jaunt we need, because, as I've said many times, at some time the lights will go out and we'll wonder why.
Absolutely. Craig McKinley, Lorne McKinley, Conservative peer, thank you very much indeed. He led the net zero scrutiny group in the Commons when he was an MP.